Hey, Wayne, what's going on, Wayne? Yeah. I was actually online last night studying the podcast and everything when uh, that story broke of Connor McDavid signing for $1 million. It was really kind of, I mean, it was minutes before it happened when the story came out. So I didn't text you, and I've been meaning to talk to you about it, but I mean, 100 million. I said a million, $100 million. That really staggering to think about. Um, and for 8 years, So that really, I think that's going to be a good talking point of tonight's show. You know, I heard where it doesn't even start until next year either. Yeah. So he's set.
Mike. There we go. There we go. Now we got something. I got a new mic position. It used to be mounted to my desk over here, and it came over this way. Now I've got it mounted to a shelf right above me.
It's the same mic?
Same mic. I just moved the mic arm to a different spot. So that way I could push it up out of the way when I'm not using it. Because it was kind of in the way when I was using it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the mic is coming down from up above.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that works out better or not. I don't know. All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm going to wait for the dog to stop barking. UPS guy came, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she don't like the UPS guy.
So this is going to be season 2, episode 1.
Yep.
That's going to be neat to hear you say that.
He's not even around anymore, is he? Are we done?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Here we go. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
It's going good, Wayne. Historic day for us. Season 2, Episode 1. I'm very excited.
That's right. Season 2. So we have, as we've said in previous podcasts, we have aligned our so-called seasons with the NHL seasons. So since July 1st officially starts the next season, the 17-18 season in the NHL, we have followed suit, and we are doing the same thing with the podcast. So this is the first episode of the brand new season. So here we are.
Yep.
We're starting our second year of podcasting.
Yeah. Very excited.
And since we've last got together, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Not so much on the ice, but off the ice. It's we're in the middle of free agent season, so we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Of course, the last time we recorded, we talked about the entry draft. We talked about the expansion draft. And some trades and stuff that happened before that. And this week, we're pretty much continuing on with the trades. And, of course, July 1st started free agency, which is kind of like Christmas for us hockey fans.
Yeah.
We get to find out if our teams get new players or lose players or just stay as they are. So we've got a ton to talk about on that front. So other than that, there really hasn't been a lot going on. There were a lot of transactions on July 1st, and then it kind of died down over the weekend. Well, understandably so. It was 150th anniversary of Canada on July 1st, Canada Day, and July 4th. Oh, pretty much down here in the States. I don't know if you've noticed, but July 1st, of course, was Saturday, but where I work, it seemed like nobody was working from June 30th all the way through July 4th.
Yeah.
It was a long weekend for most everybody, except us. Of course, I had to work right straight through the weekend, but I've got some time off coming up, so I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, that's good.
So, go ahead.
I agree with you that and it's a good thing. I love this holiday period here, but it seems that restaurants, stores, even a lot of places will shut down for a few days and observe the July 4th holiday.
Yep.
And so things get slower, and that's a good thing. You get even though you're at work, it's not as hectic perhaps, and so that's a blessing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got a lot to talk about this week, and this is actually, before we get going, just a little housekeeping. This is going to be our last show until somewhere around July 26th. We have tentatively scheduled our next podcast to be on July 26th, give or take a day or two, and then the next one after that, August 16th, because both of us have vacations coming up. I'm going to be gone. We're taking a trip up north all the way to, well, we're leaving in about a week or so, and we're coming back just before we record the next podcast. So me and the kids are going to go up and visit some friends and family up north. So my wife is going to stay down and babysit the dogs.
Okay. That'll be good.
Yep.
I'm scheduled to go. My wife's daughter lives in Wilmington, so not this weekend and not next weekend, but the following weekend we're scheduled to go for that weekend. So I got a little trip coming up too. So,
yep.
But that should be good.
Yep. So a little time away from the grind will be good for. I desperately need a break from work. Not so much a break from this, because this is still fun, but
yeah,
I'll miss this while we're gone. But
I agree.
But things are going to die down here anyway. It already pretty much has. But yeah, break from work is going to be definitely needed for me in particular. So, all right, well, let's get into some things. Again, before we get going, if you'd like to interact with the show, you can reach us through Twitter. I'm at Wayne Halley 9, and Steve is at SBall504man. And if you've been following me over the past couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of tweeting. Every time I see a news story come across that I feel would be interesting to our listeners, I do generally just retweet it and send it along. So it basically saves our listeners. If you want to, I follow a good chunk of the hockey media, the hockey teams themselves. So if you wanted to just follow me, you can consolidate all of that. And when I do see some news stories come across, I try to send them along. So I'm sure you've been seeing some of those tweets come through if you've been following me. You can also email the show. I'm at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. You can email us directly on the show there. You can reach us through our Facebook page, our facebook.com/thehockeynuts. We have a YouTube channel now. It's thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. And that will redirect you right to our YouTube page. And as a reminder, too, when we record the podcast, we do live stream it. So you could actually watch us record it, so to speak, watch us make the bacon, or make the sausage. I got that expression all wrong. Anyway, you can watch us make the sausage, and we stream it both on Facebook and on YouTube. And in fact, I believe I'm also streaming on Twitch at I can't remember my channel name there, but we're under the talk show section of Twitch as well. But just subscribe to a service that basically streams that everywhere, everywhere that has streaming. So without further ado, let's get into this. Some of the things that happened over the past week, of course, we got free agency, we've got trades, and the last thing I wanted to talk about is I attended in person one of the Canes development camp days, and I also watched a couple of the sessions online as well. So I've got some notes and stuff from the Hurricanes. I know a lot of the teams are going through their development camps this week. Well, the Hurricanes got theirs out of the way last week, and that was an interesting time to go hang out over there. So I've got a few.
Very much looking forward to hearing that.
Yep. So I got a few few stories come out of that. So other than that, let's get going.
Yes, sir.
Let's start with what we'll probably do this week just to keep things somewhat easy and organized rather than go. I guess we could have taken the time to go team by team and done it that way, but I figured what we do is just go with, let's talk about all the trades first that have happened since our last podcast, and then we will talk about free agent signings after that. So we go all the way back to, let's see, we last recorded on June 27th, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did we talk about the Mark Mathot trade with Vegas? I think we did on the last one.
We did. Yes,
All
we
right.
did.
All right, so that leads us up to June 29th would be the next trade that happened. And that was actually a trade involving the Hurricanes and the Flames. The Flames got, I'm trying to follow this correctly. Let's see. All right, Mark Mathot is now with the Dallas Stars, right?
As I believe that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to read this. Yes. Okay, I got it now. All right. So this is an interesting trade that I came across. The Hurricanes and the Flames made a trade, and it's actually feels like it happened a long time ago. The Hurricanes were able to get rid of Eddie Lack in this trade. Hurricanes sent Eddie Lack, defenseman Ryan Murphy, who's a former first-round draft pick, by the way, but has been playing mostly kind of spot outings in the NHL. Most of his time was spent in the American Hockey League. So they sent Lack, Murphy, and a 7th-round pick in 2019 to Calgary. And Carolina received Keegan Kanzig, a defenseman, and a 2019 6th-round pick. And Keegan Kanzig, I looked into him. He is basically a project defenseman at this point. He's a long shot to make it to the NHL. He's playing, I believe, in the American League at this point. And also as part of that trade, Carolina retains 50% of Eddie Lack's salary. So basically, I mean, my first reaction to this trade was just Carolina just dumped Eddie Lack. Calgary really didn't give up anything to get him.
I was just about to say that. It doesn't seem like, and plus Carolina's footing the bill for 50% of the trade.
Yeah. I mean, granted, Carolina has Lack. They still have Cam Ward, and of course they now have Scott Darling.
Right.
So all three goaltenders are making in it. I think Eddie Lack was the lowest paid one at about $2.6 million. So you really can't carry three goalies making $2+ million a year.
That's right.
On an NHL team. So the Carolina had no choice. They had to get rid of Lack, and I think that put Calgary in a bit of a spot of power at this point. And they knew that they had to dump Lack, and I kind of wish that Carolina would have been able to get something more for him, but they really didn't. And then of course they gave up Ryan Murphy, who was supposed to be a really big prospect for them, but over the last couple of years, they've just been really disappointed with his play, I guess. They just haven't been giving him a chance at the NHL level. So they ended up dumping him, and I don't know if you saw, but the very next day or the day after that, Murphy ended up getting released or bought out by Calgary. So
well, I did not see that.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So apparently Murphy's stock has fallen quite a ways in that.
Wow. Yeah. I did not see that.
Oh, they actually put him on waivers, I think, is what they ended up doing.
Listen, Carolina, yes, it sounds like they dumped him, and really a 6th-round pick, you don't know. It's you have no idea whether or not that pick will ever turn out. But the other side of the coin is it is $2.6 million, and yes, they have to cover it for 50%. But they're in a more comfortable position as far as when the season starts. They know who their goalie is.
Yep.
They know who their backup is.
Yep.
And they have some stability. And it was an expensive thing to do to get that stability. but they have some stability as far as the team goes. And I think that's good for Bill Peters. I think, I mean, just looking and thinking about it conceptually right now, and I'm a head coach. I'm going in there. I know how my goalie position is set up. I can start making plans right now.
Yep.
Just that's a peace of mind that Carolina especially really needs. On the other side, you have Calgary, who definitely needs goalie help. If ever there was a team,
Yep.
They struggle in that area.
Well, and they've made some transactions, and we'll get to those to try to shore up their goalie situation. Yeah.
Right. So it's a good thing. I think this is a good trade, even though you're right. Carolina gave up a lot for really nothing. But I think if you take a step back and look at it, it's probably a very good move and a wise move to get this behind them.
Yep. Yeah, and it does nail down. So you're going into the season with Darling as your starter, Ward as your backup, which obviously Ward has been the face of the franchise in terms of goaltending anyway. Since they won the Cup back in 2006.
Right.
But for the last 2 or 3 years, the amount of work he's been getting there in Carolina is just it's showed that he's not a starter anymore. I guess is probably get right to it. He's not a starter anymore. Right. This will be a good role for him. He'll be able to put his workload way back, and we'll see. You'll probably get better performance out of him with the lighter workload. So. Oh,
I'd agree. And Wayne, I mean, what do you think about it? But a very capable backup.
Oh yeah.
They're in trouble. Darling gets hurt. Something happens. Here's a guy that can step in, and they're very confident in what he can do and his ability.
Yep.
They've shored up their goalie position very well.
Yep. So it's one of many really good moves that I've seen Carolina make this year. It's got me really excited for that team. So,
yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. On June 30th, Buffalo traded Tyler Ennis and Marcus Foligno and a 2018 third-round pick to Minnesota in exchange for Marco Scandella, Jason Pominville, and a 2018 fourth-round pick. So, again, I believe this was a case. It looks to me like Minnesota had to get rid of some salary cap space. Because in terms of money anyway, Buffalo took on way more money than what Minnesota did. So, Marcus Foligno, I believe, is a restricted free agent, so they still have to sign him. But I don't know. I like this trade. It seems to me pretty, right off the bat as a fairly even trade to me.
Right. And Buffalo's getting a commodity that they know. Jason Pominville used to play there.
Yep.
So they're taking him back.
He's not very young, but anymore. But Marcus Foligno is much younger. So essentially, Minnesota has an excess of defensemen, or they did up until this trade. They got rid of one of the excess defensemen that they have in Scandella, along with an older veteran forward. And they got a nice young forward to replace him, and then Tyler Ennis, who's a veteran forward as well. So this is a trade essentially to address a couple of needs for both teams. Overall, a fairly even trade. All right, Nashville on July 1st. There were a bunch of trades on July 1st, or 4 trades that I saw. Nashville sends Colin Wilson to Colorado for a 2019 fourth-round pick. Salary dumping move for Nashville in my mind.
Yes.
To make room for some of the transactions that we will get to here shortly.
Yes. Busy team, Nashville.
Yep. And Colin Wilson gets, he was a highly touted prospect at one time, and he'll get a fresh start there in Colorado. So we'll see if anything can be done. Colorado's a rough place to be, though, right now, these days. July 1st, Carter Verhaeghe. I don't know if I said his name right. And from the Islanders went to Tampa Bay in exchange for Kristers Gudlevskis. So pretty minor trade in terms of number of players. Both of them are restricted free agents, have yet been signed by either team. Another one, July 1st, Calgary sends Tom McCollum to Detroit for a 2018 7th-round draft pick. Another very minor played, very low-round pick for what is essentially a two-way player. Another one on July 1st involving Vegas. Vegas sends Alexei Emelin to Nashville for a 2019 third-round pick.
Right.
And 26% of Emelin's salary is also retained by Vegas.
Now that's a trade I see where Vegas really let go of a guy they maybe could have got more for.
Yeah, I mean,
because Alexei Emelin he's good. I would have said a 2nd-round pick at the very least, but I don't know what you thought about that.
Well,
he shuffled around quickly here.
It makes Nashville's defense even better than they already were, and they were a really good defensive core.
That's true.
Now they got another good defenseman with a nasty side. So because Emelin can get nasty at times. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously Nashville is trying to improve themselves, and I think they have at this point. Vegas, it looks like they're continuing to stockpile on draft picks. They're pretty much, in my mind, as far as I see Vegas is, they're treating this season as a throwaway season.
Yep. Very good
It
point.
really is.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the moves they made. I mean, the players that they picked up at the expansion draft left a lot of people shaking their heads or scratching their heads at the very least.
Right.
And, they picked up a lot of extra players and draft picks as part of the expansion draft and continued to add draft picks during the entry draft. And now in this time of the season, they're continuing to do the same. They're getting rid of decent, serviceable players and loading up on future draft picks. So Vegas, right from day one, is basically treated this upcoming season and maybe even next season as throwaway seasons.
Right.
And they're looking 3-4 years down the road as they're trying to shoot for, be at the high end of the draft for the next couple of years, get a couple of really good players right at the top of the draft, and they're shooting to be, probably have what a lot of teams do on a rebuilding situation is the 5-year plan, as you hear a lot about.
Right. And I couldn't have said it better, Wayne. I think that's absolutely true. And what's really good? I mean, George McPhee he's turning out to handle this very well. But the way I'm looking at this is if you think about where Vegas is positioned in the Pacific Division, they stand a good chance of making the playoffs. They really do. Not in these probably 2 seasons, I would think. But when they come out of this 3 years down the line, the draft picks coming in, free agency, who knows what effect that'll have. Even this year, they may pick up somebody. But they may come out of this and really stand a good chance at making the playoffs, at least in my mind. Because I can think of some teams right now, Vancouver, teams that they'll probably compete pretty well against.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And Calgary, who knows? They're looking good, but you don't know.
But this first year, they're going to be a rough team. They're going to be some wins to be had over Vegas this year.
Right.
And I think they can do that because this is the first year of the team. The city is excited. They've got a hockey team. They're going to sell out the building no matter what this year.
Oh yeah.
Because it's the new thing in town. The novelty is going to be there. So they can pretty much throw away this season and still fill the building.
Sure.
Next year, that will continue a little bit more. As long as they show improvement year by year, I think
Yep.
they'll still have the faith of the fans.
There'll be a good draw on the road, don't you think?
Hey,
And
I'm going to go to the game when they come
oh
here.
yeah, I want to go see him play.
Yeah.
And the jersey sales,
Yep.
There's a lot of things around that team that are going to be.
Yep.
It's going to be fun to watch.
But it's clear to me now that Vegas, right from day one, their goal was not to try to put a competitive team on the ice this season, but to try to be competitive year 3, 4, and 5.
Couldn't have said it better.
And all of their transactions they've made are confusing people. A lot of the press are confused because they're seeing these things with the mindset that, why would they make this trade if they want to try to win now? Well, they're not trying to win now. They're trying to win in 3 years. So everything they're doing is setting themselves up for a good year 3, 4, and so on. Years 1 and 2, it's going to be a bad team. Quite frankly, I'll be surprised if they finish anywhere close to being a playoff team in years 1 and 2.
Right.
Honestly. So, all right. Next trade was on July 2nd. That was another one involving Vegas, and they traded. Chicago traded Marcus Kruger to Vegas for future considerations. So I'm not sure exactly what is going back Chicago's way, but it probably depended a lot on what Vegas would eventually do with Kruger, and we'll get to the trade, because Kruger is, even though he went to Vegas, he's no longer a member of Vegas, and we'll get to that in a second. Right. The next trade was on July 2nd. The Capitals sent Marcus Johansson to New Jersey for a 2018 second-round pick and a 2018 third-round pick.
Right.
So this, to me, was just a salary cap move.
Right.
The Capitals had to get rid of some salary cap.
Right.
Probably in order to be able to afford that giant Oshie contract that they signed a week or so ago.
Yeah, very true. But they got good. Listen, the Capitals picked up a second round and a third round pick for Marcus. That's a good trade.
Yep.
That's a good trade. And that's a team in New Jersey. They're going to struggle too. I do not see them making the playoffs, despite what they've done in the draft. It'll be a real shock to me if Nico Hischier comes out and has the kind of year that Austin Matthews did.
No, you're not going to see that. You're not going to
Yep.
see. You're not going to see that year 1. You might see it year 2 or 3.
Yep.
But there's no guarantee Hischier is even going to make the team this year.
Right.
From what they say, the top end of this draft is not that kind. There's no generational players in this draft. There's good, serviceable players. NHL, Hischier will probably be on their top line at some point.
Right.
But it may not be this year. He may make the team, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Right.
I know New Jersey's excited to have him, but New Jersey has made some moves, adding Johansson, adding Hischier. They've made some other moves in recent weeks that they're going to be a better team this year, and they're going to be improving. But I don't know. I still don't think they're going to be. I agree with you there. They might not be a playoff team just yet. But this trade does make the Capitals a weaker team in the near term.
Right.
It really does.
Right.
Because Johansson's one of their better forwards, and they just got him. If you look at just this season in a nutshell, Capitals really didn't get anything from Marcus Johansson. Yes, they get the extra picks in the second, third round, but that's 2 to 3 years out.
Right.
So, in terms of the Capitals trying to make transactions to continue to try to win now, this one didn't help them at all.
That's true.
This one made them a weaker team.
Right.
So, all right, let's move on to the final trade that we had this week, and that was on July 4th, involving Vegas and the Carolina Hurricanes. And that one involved Marcus Kruger coming to the Hurricanes.
Right.
And the Hurricanes gave up a 5th-round pick in order to get him. So if you look at the two trades, So I don't know if Vegas is going to turn around and give that 5th-round pick back to Chicago.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the future considerations are, because Kruger was traded from Chicago to Vegas for future considerations, and then Kruger comes to Carolina for a 5th-round pick. That would stand to believe that, well, Vegas is probably going to give Chicago that 5th-round pick. So basically, Vegas played middleman between Chicago and Carolina.
Yeah.
So this is the 3rd former Chicago Blackhawk this offseason that Carolina has added to their team. Because they added Trevor Van Riemsdyk and
that's right, Trevor Van Riemsdyk.
Yep.
And Scott Darling.
Yep. And of course before that Brian Bickle, but of course he retired, so he won't be around. So I don't know what Carolina's up to here, but they seem to like Blackhawk players.
Yeah, Teuvo Teravainen, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He came over in the Bickle trade, didn't he?
Right. Yeah, I believe that's right.
Yep.
So well, good. That's a great trade again for Carolina. To get a player the stature and caliber of Marcus Kruger for a 5th-round draft pick is a steal.
Yeah.
I after the 3rd round, I don't know that those draft picks really even. Yeah, it's a total crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot. It sure is. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, that sums up all of the trades that have happened since our last recording. So let's move on to free agent signings. Now, I am looking at a very extensive list of free agent signings that actually includes not only unrestricted free agent signings, but restricted free agents. And we're kind of going to lump them all together in this case, just for the sake of simplicity. So some of these guys are going to be unrestricted free agents and some are going to be restricted. And unfortunately, the list I'm looking at doesn't include their former team. I wish it did. So we'll go down through, and there's been so many. We're not going to worry about the players that have signed for, 650, 700, 750,000. We're going to look at like 900,000 and up players. Those are probably going to be players that are going to make an impact with their new team, whereas some of the 650, the 800,000, those guys are more of roster fillers. Bottom six forwards, bottom pairing defensemen, those kind of guys.
Right.
If you want to see all of those transactions, I have a link in the show notes to this list of transactions that we're going to be working off tonight. And if you want to see the full list of every player who got signed, just go to our show notes, click on that link, and it'll take you right to the page that has actually all of the transactions on them. So let's go back to June, what did you say, 27th, right?
The 27th, that's correct.
All right.
And you're going with the cap-friendly, right?
Cap-friendly list, yep. And the first one I have is Eric Greiba. And, of course, everything from June 27th to the 30th is obviously restricted free agents because the unrestricted didn't start till July 1st. All right, so Eric Greiba re-signed with Edmonton. Where did I just lost it. There it is. For 2 years at $900,000 a year. So he re-signs with them. The next one, Spencer Fu, signed with Calgary for 2 years at $925,000 per year.
It's a good pickup for Calgary.
Sure is. He played
Won the
for
national championship with Denver.
Yep. He was a Hobey Baker finalist.
Yep.
Basically this was a complete free agent at this point. I don't believe Calgary owned his rights. He had the ability to sign anywhere he wanted. He actually played for Union College, won the national championship.
Yeah, that's right. What am I saying? Denver.
Well, you're same jersey color, maroon.
Right. That's right. No, he played for Union College with Mike Vecchione.
Yep. So they were on the team together. So so Spencer Fu, that's an entry level deal for him, and they say he's a very very fast, very talented player. So he'll be interesting to watch. I wonder if they'll try him on the Johnny Gaudreau line.
Yeah,
That would be kind of interesting to see, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that would be.
So he basically is this year's what's his name, who signed for the Rangers last year?
Jimmy Vesey.
Yeah, he's this year's Jimmy Vesey.
Yeah, that's good. Good way to put it.
Yep. All right, next one I have Mike Condon, goaltender, signed with Ottawa. 3 years, $2.4 million per year. Next one I have Brock McGinn, signed with the Carolina Hurricanes for 2 years, $887.50. Probably could have skipped that one. He's pretty much a depth guy at this point. The next one, Sven Andrighetto, right wing, signed with the Avalanche for 2 years, $1.4 per year. He'll be probably on their top 6 at this point. He'd be a bottom 6 at any other team. Next one, the Rangers re-signed Brendan Smith. He was actually scheduled to be unrestricted, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, and that. Listen, I'm real thankful for that signing. I've been pleased with his play, and the Rangers, of course, they needed. They've got 6 defensemen now. They really do, and of course, we lost Dan Girardi, but we pick up a guy in Brendan Smith that, quite honestly, in my opinion, is playing better at this point in his career than Dan Girardi is.
Agreed. Yep, for sure.
So yeah.
Definitely.
That good signing.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree with that. Brendan Smith obviously came in as a quote-unquote rental,
Right.
but decided he liked it in New York and decided to stay. So he'll be there for another 4 years at
Right.
4.3.
Right. And
Think
remember,
that's a little high, or?
Well, here's the thing. He's another connection with Wisconsin. Now they traded Derek Stepan, and I'm still trying to get my head around that one. I really I hate that loss. Derek Stepan was a very important player to our team, chemistry wise, playmaker wise. I don't know, and they did it for cap room, but I don't know. That trade really bothered me. And maybe they just could. There's nothing they could. Maybe there's something else coming this summer, Wayne, that we don't know about. But I wouldn't have traded Derek Stepan, and I'm very that one. Frankly,
Well, here's something I thought about the Derek Stepan trade. The Rangers have been pretty high on. Oh man, why is his name escaping me? Bushnevich.
Mm-hmm.
And he really didn't play that much last year. He was a healthy scratch a lot last year.
He was injured too.
And he was injured for a while.
Back spasms.
So I'm wondering if they're clearing a little bit of space up front to give Bushnevich more of a top 6 role. Because even when he played, he wasn't in top 6 a lot.
Right.
They had him on the 3rd line, sometimes even 4th line.
Right.
So, I wonder if they cleared out Stepan a little bit to let a guy like him have a little bit more ice time and more of an offensive role.
Could be.
I don't know. It's just a theory.
Right.
Just a thought.
Right. Like I said, Brendan Smith, good move, and we need that. We need that guy.
Yep.
So, and as I said, he's a Wisconsin, is what I was saying. He's a Wisconsin connection.
You love your Wisconsin connection with the Rangers.
That's definitely the Rangers connection there.
Yep.
with college hockey. So and that they're always going to give guys from that team a good look.
Yep. All right. Good. Well, the next one we're going on to is Chris Versteeg, who signed a 1-year contract, 1.75. Mr. 1-year contract, Chris Versteeg. and I've listened to some podcasts. A lot of people question, why does Chris Versteeg always sign a 1-year contract? His last several contracts he's signed, probably the last several years, have all been 1-year contracts. And I thought of something. I'm like, it's not actually a bad idea for a guy like him to sign a 1-year contract, because he knows he's not going to be a top 6 guy. He's not going to be, people aren't going to. You're not going to build a franchise around Chris Versteeg, right?
Right.
Well, if he signs just a 1-year contract, he essentially gets to choose the team he plays for from year to year to year.
Right.
And a guy like him who likes nothing more than to win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
Of course, they all like to win a Stanley Cup, but Versteeg really likes to try to win the Stanley Cup. He gets to choose the team he wants to go on, so he can go from competitor to competitor, year to year to year.
And that's a good point. I never thought about it that
and
way.
If he chooses wrong, then he knows he's probably going to be a guy that's going to be a rental. So he could end up getting traded to a contender if the team he chose at the beginning of the year isn't a contender. He may end up on one at the end of the year because his contract will be up. It makes him a perfect rental player.
Right.
Add as a depth guy. It's actually not a bad move if all you want to do is to win, a Stanley Cup as often as you possibly can. Sure, why not sign 1-year contracts every year and if you don't mind bouncing around. Most of the guys like the stability of living in one area. They want to buy a house, they have a family, kids, yada yada yada. They're human beings too.
Right.
But some players just don't mind bouncing around from team to team, and he's clearly one of those guys. So. All right, the next one I have is Keith Kincaid, goaltender, signed with the New Jersey Devils. 2 years, $1.25 a year. So he's signed on. I believe he'll be their backup there.
Right. Behind Corey Schneider.
Yep. So that tandem will continue for another year, or another 2 years, actually, because I believe Schneider's signed long-term. So the next one, Jordan Wheel. Has signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. 2 years, $1.75 per year. Kind of a depth forward for them.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, Dmitry Orlov, defenseman, re-signed with the Capitals. 6 years, $5.1 a year. So that contract totals $30.6 million. A
lot of money.
So he's only 25, so they've basically signed on to have him as a cornerstone of their defense going forward. They have to sign somebody. They have to keep somebody. But, Washington overall as a team I see is going to be taking a step back this year, and I'm pretty excited about that because, I don't like to see the same teams win over and over and over. I like to see new teams come up. All right, the next one, Michael Stone, a defenseman, signed with the Calgary Flames. For $3.5 a year for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So again, Calgary's quietly amassed quite a nice defensive core as well.
Yes, they have.
The next one I have is Alex Petrovich has signed with the Florida Panthers, defenseman, for 1 year at $1.8 million a year. So that will be he'll be one of their probably, a 4, 5, 6 defensemen, somewhere in that neighborhood? Or do you think he's higher than that?
Alex Petrovich?
Yeah.
On that team, I think he's
top
not
4?
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Okay.
I would think he's 4, 5, or 6, like you said.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on. There's so many here. We can't spend too much time on any one. All right, goaltender Chad Johnson signed with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
This is the first of the unrestricted free agents. This is as of July 1st. So he signed a 1-year contract for $2.5 million a year. Here's another guy who seems to be jumping from team to team in a back. He knows he's not a starter. And he's a very serviceable backup. The Bruins had him 1 year, and he was very good for the Bruins that year. I wish they would have been able to keep him, but the year that he was here, the Bruins were in cap trouble, and they couldn't hang on to him, so he ended up moving on.
Of course, he came up the ranks in the Rangers franchise.
Yep.
And he is a very good goalie. If he's just given a chance to with some stability, I think he could do very well. What do you think that trade is a direct result of Carolina and their move with Eddie Lack? Calgary's move with Eddie Lack? Or because Johnson was with Calgary, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is the second year in a row where Calgary has completely turned over their goaltending tandem. So
Yeah.
they obviously weren't happy with Elliott and Johnson. So they're trying two new goalies this year.
Right.
They're going to be, it's going to be an interesting deal. Well, Calgary now has Smith and Lack as
Right.
their 1 and 2, and I still don't think that's going to be. That's certainly not a cup contending tandem for sure, but.
Nope. I agree with you.
But
Smith,
it remains to be seen whether or not the Smith Lack tandem will be better than the
Elliott Johnson.
than the Elliott Johnson tandem. So
I agree. I couldn't have said it better, Wayne.
yeah,
I agree. That's a pretty good tandem.
It might be a slight upgrade over the previous tandem because Elliott really didn't have that great of a year, and then Johnson, well, he's not going to be a starter anyway, but we'll see. All right, one I skipped over that I want to touch on. Patrick Sharp goes back to Chicago, signs a 1-year contract for $800,000.
Yep.
And I wanted to touch on that one because of obviously Patrick Sharp is a pretty big name. He was with the Blackhawks for a lot of years. And this is the first of a couple of signings I saw the Blackhawks do that they're kind of, I don't know if they're trying to get the band back together or what. trying to bring a few players back that, they're bringing back Brendan Saad. They're bringing back, they're just bringing back guys that were on cup winning teams before. So you got Saad coming back, you got Sharp coming back. It's like, it's usually not a good thing. Right.
I really thought Patrick Sharp was worth a whole lot more than that. It seems like his stock has really dropped.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised but maybe he did take a bit of a pay cut because his last contract he was at 5.9 a year, and he dropped all the way to 800,000. So I wonder if he took a bit of a what we want to call a hometown discount here.
Yeah, that's a big discount. Because
his previous contract, it was 5 years, 5.9 per year.
I mean,
and then the contract before that was 4 years, 3.9 per year. So yeah, he's been making a really good money for quite a long time, and now all of a sudden he comes back for 800,000. So yeah, you're right. That is a huge discount.
Of course, he's 35, so
he is. So, Chicago could end up with a bargain there if they can get, say, I don't know what kind of offense they could expect out of a 35-year-old Patrick Sharp. If they could find a way to get 20 goals out of him.
Yep. Which is very doable.
Well, for him, yeah, because he's perennially, up until recently anyway, 20, 30 goals a year.
Mm-hmm.
He only got 8 last year, but he only played 48 games too. He was hurt for a good chunk of the year. So I guess we'll see. That could end up being a steal for Chicago.
Yep.
Not that team needs it, man.
Yeah.
All right. The next free agent signing I have is Kyle Quincy.
Okay.
Defenseman signed with Minnesota, 1 year, 1.25.
Mm-hmm.
So he essentially replaces the defenseman that they traded, and obviously a downgrade for them in my mind. Scandella, I think, was a better defenseman than he is, but
agreed.
But they gotta put 6 guys out there, so So not that Quincy's a horrible D, but he just he's going to be on their bottom pairing probably for sure. I'm just scanning over the list to see if there's any big names that signed for low money that I didn't see any as of yet. No. All right, next one I have Radim Verbata, right winger, signed with Florida for 1 year, $2.5 million a year.
Yep.
So he's a nice addition for Florida. Obviously, he was with Phoenix or Arizona before.
Right.
I believe he was their leading scorer last year, wasn't he?
Oh, you got me there. Might have been. It wasn't OEL, was it?
No, I think for some reason I'm thinking he was. If he wasn't their top scorer, he was pretty close. 55 points in 81 games, and of course, on a very bad Phoenix team, that's not. He's going to be right up there. So, if he can even come close to that for Florida, that will be a nice add for them. And he essentially probably will end up taking the spot on the roster vacated by Jaromir Jagr, who reports are saying that he will not be coming back to Florida for certain. So, all right, next one I have Mr. Fourth Line, Dominic Moore.
Yep.
Signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs for 1 year, $1 million.
Been bouncing around his last 3 years in the NHL.
Yeah, he has.
But he's a good player.
He played well for the Bruins last year. I was very happy
Absolutely.
with his play. Yep.
He did.
Good penalty killer.
Yeah. Good locker room guy.
Good locker room guy. Good guy for the fourth line for sure. All right. Anders Nielsen, goaltender, signed with the Vancouver Canucks for 2 years at 2.5.
Right.
Believe he will be their backup. That is correct, right?
Probably so. With Ryan Miller moving to Anaheim, that's probably. I'm trying to think who their starter is going to be.
Luongo is still Luongo's not there. Markstrom. Yep.
That's right.
Yep. Markstrom is their starter. So you might see a tandem there.
Right.
I mean, Vancouver's definitely slated to not have a very good season coming up for sure.
Yeah.
They are going to be a team that's going to be struggling for a little while. I lost my place. Holy cow, where was I?
Let's see.
We just finished Dominic Moore. Okay, Anders Nielsen.
Yep.
All right, we're on to Mark-Edouard Vlasic, the pickle.
Yeah. I was shocked at the amount of money he's going to make.
Whew, man. 8 years, 8 years, $7 million a year.
Is he a $7 million a year player?
No, he is not. They definitely paid big dollar to keep him in because he stays in San Jose.
Yeah. I don't understand that one, quite frankly.
Yeah, that one does seem a little pricey to me. He was making 4.25 before.
Right.
So he got almost a $3 million raise. And he's got no movement clause on top of that for the first 5 years of this contract.
Okay. I'm not understanding that one, Wayne.
Yeah, that one seems to be a bit much to me. I mean, obviously good stay-at-home guy, but San Jose might have just put themselves in a bit of a pickle, so to speak. On that one.
That was a very good one.
All right. Speaking of San Jose, Martin Jones re-upped his contract, signed a 6-year deal, $5.75 million. I always am cautious about spending top dollar on goaltending, just because goalies these days the difference between the number 1 goalie and the number 30 goalie in the league.
Yeah,
is really, really subtle in some cases. Obviously Martin Jones is a very good goalie. Probably one of the top, I would say, 10, 15 goalies in the league. and he could get better. So San Jose locks him up. I guess they just don't want to have to worry about the goaltending position for a while. So they've got him locked up for the next 6 years. The Ducks made another move. Cam Fowler got signed for, listen to this, think of it, talking about expensive defensemen. 8 years, $6.5 million per year.
That's a little high. That's a little high, but not as bad of a move as it is with Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Because Cam Fowler's very good, and Anaheim kept him. That's a case where they really didn't want to lose him. Because
you're gonna get more offense out of Cam Fowler than you would have for Vlasic.
Very good point. And if left open to the open market, wasn't he was a restricted or unrestricted?
I believe he was unrestricted.
He was highly sought.
Yeah.
His name bounced around a lot of teams, and Anaheim did good to keep him. They may have paid a little more than he's worth, but not terrible.
Yep, you're right. Oh no, Fowler I believe was restricted. He's 20. He's only 25. Yeah. I don't think you can be unrestricted till you're 27.
Right.
So yeah. So the Ducks nailed down one of their probably top pairing defensemen there for the next 8 years. All right, Ryan Miller. We spoke about him a little bit earlier. He signed on to be the Ducks' backup.
Right.
2 years, $2 million a year, and I've noticed that a couple of teams are doing this. Carolina is attempting it. Here, the Ducks are doing it. They're trying to make sure that their 1 and 2 goalies are both very, very good and very, very reliable. Ryan Miller is 36 years old. He's not going to be a starter anymore, but he can be a very, very reliable backup if their number 1 guy goes down for an extended period of time. Miller can step in and carry the team for a while.
Absolutely.
So that's not a bad move for them.
Right.
Obviously, Gibson is still going to be the starter there, but Miller will be a nice backup. And they also signed Rito Berra too, as a number 3 goalie. But Berra they only got for $700,000 a year, so that's their goaltending position is shored up at least for the next season or so. Anyway,
that's for sure.
All right, next one I got would be, I wanted to mention it too, even though it doesn't meet our minimum standards. It's a Boston Bruins signing, Kenny Agostino. He's a 25-year-old left winger. He signed for 1 year, $875,000. And the thing that kind of piqued my interest there, he was the MVP of the American Hockey League last year.
Oh. Did not know that.
And he was kind of stuck. Who did he play for? I read a story, or he was with the St. Louis Blues last year, and he was just stuck on the depth chart down St. Louis Blues roster or whatnot. And the Blues, I guess, never really gave him a shot at playing in the NHL. He only played 7 games last year in the NHL, but had 3 points. For Chicago Wolves, he had 83 points in 65 games. So the Boston Bruins signed him on kind of as more of a depth guy for them, but they're going to give him a shot at playing, at least this is what I'm reading anyway, they're going to give him a shot at playing possibly third line, maybe even some second line minutes or some power play 2 minutes. Because they say he's really talented, he's fast, very good player. He just hasn't been given the right opportunity yet in the NHL, and apparently the Bruins are willing to give him a shot. So it'll be interesting to see, for Bruins fans out there to see if this guy can do anything with the Bruins. So
very
interesting
good
to look at. All right, next one, Benoit Pouliot, Buffalo Sabres, signed a 1 year, $1.15 million contract.
Right.
It's a guy who's been bouncing around a little bit,
right?
But he's a good depth signing for Buffalo.
Yep. could score 20 goals a year with the right season he did with the Rangers.
With the right season and the right situation, yeah, he could.
Yeah.
All right. Martin Hanzal, center, signed with Dallas. 3 years, $4.75 a year. Dallas is quietly assembling a very good team.
Yes, they are.
They're going to be a very tough team this year.
They are, and that's a very good signing.
Yep.
I think that's a good signing for them.
I think that's a little pricey for a guy like Hanzal.
Maybe slightly. He's at least $3.5, maybe even $4 million a year. Martin Hansel's a good player.
He made 3.1 last year. So, and he scored. He missed a lot of the year last year, though, didn't he? Well, no, he played 71 games.
Yeah,
just two different teams. He got traded. He was a rental for Minnesota, and then before that he was with Arizona.
Phoenix.
So,
yep.
But yeah, I saw that. I'm like, it's a little on the pricey side. Was my first reaction, but let's make no mistake. Anybody that you sign on July 1st, you're going to overpay for, no matter what team you are. That's just the nature of free agency. So, so that's, I guess, the way it is. All right, next one, Dallas again. Tyler Pitlick, right winger, signed 3 years, $1 million a year. So 3 years, $3 million total.
Yeah.
Depth player for them. Next one I saw was Andre Pavlik.
Yep.
Goaltender, signed with the Rangers, 1 year, 1.3.
Right.
Obviously replacing Antti Ranta as the backup. That would be a definite downgrade in my opinion.
Oh, it is. Yeah, there's no question. That's a downgrade. They've only got him for 1 year. And Scott Halverson, who was formerly with the Sioux City Greyhounds, and now is the starting goalie for the Connecticut Whale, I think they're touting him to come on board in the NHL at some point.
Oh, okay. So they got a prospect. Yeah.
Pavlik they're going to test the waters on that.
Yep.
And that may be a swap at some point in the year.
You may see them putting Pavlik through waivers if they got a minor leaguer coming up, a prospect coming up that ends up playing well enough to stick with the team.
Right.
Yep. You could see Pavlik on waivers. All right. Now, we spoke about Ryan Murphy a little while ago. I just saw on the list. He's on this list. He signed with Minnesota on a 1 year, $700,000 contract. So he got traded from Carolina to Calgary. The next day, Calgary bought him out, making him an unrestricted free agent. And now he signs on as a defenseman with Minnesota. 1 year, $700,000. It's just a gamble move for Minnesota there. He's a former first-round pick. So you never know. That change of scenery might do him some good, and he might wake up and start playing like a first-round pick again.
Right.
If he does, that'll be a steal for them.
And that'll be another one just like Jordan Stahl.
Yep. Nate Thompson, center, signed with the Ottawa Senators. 2 years, $1.65 per year. So he's a nice depth forward for them. Brian Elliott, goaltender.
Yep.
Signed with Philadelphia Flyers. 2 years, $2.75 a year.
Right. Now, what does that do to the Hamburglar?
Probably puts him down into the American League is what it does.
I mean, now, either that or he's going down.
Because I think they think... Well, yeah.
Danny Taylor. Brian Elliott's going down because that doesn't... I mean... Hammond had all those. Remember, Hammond was just a knockout 2 years ago with his play.
Yep, because they still got Michael Neuwirth there.
I believe that's correct.
I think Brian Elliott and Neuwirth will end up being your two goalies in Philadelphia this year, and they'll probably just let them duke it out to see whoever plays better is going to end up the starter there.
Yeah, I was thinking that Elliott went to Ottawa. My mistake. I was looking at the wrong line.
No.
Yeah.
If Elliott ends up playing like he did 2 years ago, that'll be a nice signing for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If he plays he did last year, then
yeah, he fits in very well. That'll be good with Neuwirth.
Philadelphia's track record with goalies in the last several years hasn't been that great, so
That's true.
they seem to be constantly searching for their next starting goalie, and I joke with that about that with a guy I know that I play hockey with, that he's a Flyers fan. I'm like, all right, who's there going to be their goalie this year?
And they had Sergei Bobrovsky, isn't that?
Yeah, I know.
They
I
had
know.
him.
They had him and they let him go. Yep.
Oh,
Yep. All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They signed Matt Hunwick, defenseman. 3 years, $2.25. He essentially will be taking Ron Hainsey's spot on the roster, in my mind.
very good signing.
Yep. So a good 5'6" defenseman for them.
Very good.
Michael Del Zotto, former Ranger defenseman, signed with the Vancouver Canucks. 2 years, $3 million per year. Seems a little expensive for him, but
Might be. Yeah, he's
but
Ouch.
Vancouver needs to got to put somebody on their roster.
That's right.
Speaking of Vancouver, Sam Gagner, center right wing, signed with them 3 years, 3.1 per year. He'll be probably on their second line, unless they put him with the Sedins.
Right.
Although I think they still have Louis Eriksson playing with them, doesn't he? Don't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a good signing, actually.
I think Vancouver is going to be a bad team until the Sedins decide that they're done playing, because they still have that team centered around those two, and those two are just they're in the decline and they're getting worse year by year. All right, Steve Mason. Here's an expensive signing, goaltender.
I could not believe it.
Signed with the Winnipeg Jets, 2 years, 4.1 per year.
Yeah.
That seemed to be very high to me.
An overpaid goalie there, I would say.
Yep.
Although Mason has had his moments where he has played very well.
Yep.
That's expensive. That's expensive for a goalie.
Yep.
Of this caliber.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Justin Schultz, who basically in the playoffs can't, he was a defenseman who showed signs of being a really good player and then kind of disappeared for a season or two with the Oilers. Came out of nowhere and was a force in the playoffs for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So
Yep.
he had 51 points last year for the Penguins. I don't know if that's just being on a strong team like that, but I remember when he was coming up with the Oilers, he was highly touted as an offensive defenseman, but never really was able to do that in Edmonton. The highest number of points he ever had with Edmonton was 33 points in a season. And he basically changed teams and got a new awakening, and we got the offensive guy that they were expecting to get out of him last year. So he signs a big contract, re-signing with the Pittsburgh Penguins. 3 years, 5.5 per year. And if he puts up 50 points again the next 3 years, that's going to be a nice value signing for them.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Not sure about his defensive game, but offensively he'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right, next one I have Justin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back to Carolina. Right winger, signed a 2-year, $4.5 million per year deal with the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, my first initial thought was definitely a pricey signing. But as far as the Carolina Hurricanes are concerned, it doesn't really matter. They're nowhere near the cap ceiling. So they got money to blow, essentially.
And he will put fans in the seats.
Yep. Fans remember him. He was on the Stanley Cup winning team way back in the day, back in 2006.
Right.
So a lot of fans are very excited that he's coming back. He's not really going to be brought back for what he does on the ice per se, although he can provide still plenty of offense. What did he have? 27 goals, I think, last year.
Yeah.
And look, 24 goals last year and 22 the year before that. So if you can still get 20 goals out of him.
And I think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt they'll get 20 goals out of him next year.
He'll be a top 6.
Yep.
He'll be paired with some of the better forwards that they have. But what he brings to the table is something that Carolina has been missing for a long, long time. He brings a winning attitude.
Yep.
He's a guy that loves to win, hates to lose. Carolina's taken a lot of flack in recent years for having a bunch of guys that are quote unquote passengers.
Yeah. Would you say to this? He excels when the pressure is high.
Yes. Yeah, he does have the nickname around here anyway as Mr. Game 7. Because the year they won the cup, he scored. Carolina played more than one Game 7 that year, and he was a force out there in all those Game 7s. So he brings that type of player. He's a good locker room guy. He's a guy with plenty of experience in the playoffs. He was brought on to basically teach the young kids, because Carolina is, if they're not the youngest team in the league, they're certainly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he was brought on to be the senior guy in the room to, kind of take basically this whole team of young players under his wing and teach them, what is necessary or what it takes to win at the highest levels. So,
right.
So that 4.5 is not just for him to produce 20 goals. It's for him to be a definite leader on this team. And I wouldn't surprise me one bit if they gave him the C this year.
Really?
Because that job is vacant. They don't have a captain.
What happened with Jordan Stahl?
Jordan never got the C. Eric had the C.
That's right. That's right. That is right.
And when he left, they kept Jordan Stahl as an assistant. They kept Jeff Skinner as an assistant. Victor Rask has worn the A at times, and I believe even Justin Falk has worn the A, and all four of those guys may continue to wear the A. But there is no captain on this team, and they have been holding off until they have the right guy. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they gave that to Justin Williams.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I agree with you. I could see him being the captain in a heartbeat.
Yep. Because he was an assistant in Washington, and I don't know. He'll be a good guy to have for at least the next couple of years to help bring these young kids teach them how to be real pros. We'll put it that way. Because Carolina really hasn't had that in recent years. Most of the best players that Carolina has don't know what it's like to play in the playoffs. So
that's right. Yeah.
Because some of them have never played in the playoffs. Justin Skinner has never been a playoff player. Obviously, Jordan Stahl has, but it wasn't with Carolina. So Williams will bring that element to the team. So very good signing for them. And in fact, they did during the prospect game. The prospect game they had in Carolina for the development camp was on Saturday, the day of free agency, and they announced the signing of Justin Williams during that prospect. Fans went nuts.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Fans were very happy.
From that standpoint, Wayne, a great move for the Hurricanes.
Yep.
Because he definitely will bring people back to the PNC Arena.
Yeah, he's a familiar name to those who followed the team back in 2006 when they won the cup. So, all around good signing for Carolina. All right, Jonathan Bernier, goaltender, signed with the Avalanche, 1 year, $2.75. He might get a shot at the starting job there.
Yep.
Although they have said that even with this signing that Varlamov is going to continue being the starter, but Bernier could give him a run.
And that's not for a year or two. That's not bad money.
Yep. All right. Next one I have, Evgeny Dadonov comes over from the KHL and signs a 3-year contract, $4 million a year. So 3 years, $12 million total
Right.
as a winger for the Florida Panthers. So that's a nice ad for them.
Very nice ad.
Yep.
And watch out.
He was one of the better players in the KHL
That's
in
correct.
recent years. All right, Montreal signed defenseman Carl Alsner to a 5-year, $4.625 million per year contract.
They're spending some money there.
They sure are. I guess they had to. They had to replace Alexei Emelin, so I guess he's their guy.
I am not. I will hesitate to say. I think that's a bad signing. I don't think he's worth that. I really don't. But
Certainly not.
My words next year,
He's certainly not offensively worth that.
Right.
Maybe defensively he is, but so if he's a stay-at-home guy, and the older Shea Weber gets, he's more of a stay-at-home guy. Well, now you got Montreal with a team full of stay-at-home defensemen. How are they going to get the puck up to the forwards?
Yeah, and listen, the bleeding started in the draft period, and then free agency. Montreal really started bleeding, and they haven't stopped. I mean, we'll talk more about the next guy that went down the line.
Yep.
They should have really shored things up with who.
Yeah.
And but Carl Alsner, I don't agree with that's a lot of money to pay for that guy.
Yep. And they stuck with him for 5 years too. So it's going to be fun to watch the Bruins beat up on the Canadiens this year. I'm calling it right now. All right. Brian Boyle signed with the New Jersey Devils. He's a forward, of course. 2 years, 2.75. He's he's another piece that New Jersey had that's definitely an upgrade for them. Of course, at this point, everything's an upgrade for them. So, and
a veteran guy, a tough guy. He can put the puck in the net. Brian Boyle all around. I was hoping the Rangers would get him, and of course, I work with a guy who is a huge Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and he was hoping he'd go back to the Lightning from Toronto. But New Jersey's got a good guy there.
Yep. All right, another one. And this one struck me as kind of funny. We talked about him earlier. Michael Vecchione.
Yep.
The Italian stallion signs with Philadelphia. He'll fit right in there.
Oh yeah.
2 years, $900,000. So he's another guy. I believe he was a Hobey Baker finalist as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He was.
So we'll be interesting to see how he does there. He's one of the better players coming out of the college hockey this year, so he'll sign on there. Dmitry Kulikov signed with the Winnipeg Jets, defenseman.
Yep.
3 years, $4.3333 per year.
Yeah. And wouldn't he have been better than Carl Alsner for the Canadiens? 4.3, he would have been worth it.
Probably.
But they didn't get him.
Nope.
That's a good signing for Winnipeg.
Yep. It's not a bad signing at all for them. All right. Scott Hartnell signed a 1 year with the Nashville Predators. Of course, Hartnell is a left winger. He signed 1 year, $1 million. Gave somebody a discount there on that one.
Absolutely.
I think he wanted to join a contender. I'm not sure if he's won. Has he won a cup? No, he hasn't. He's never won a Stanley Cup. So this one looks to me like a guy who signed on with a Stanley Cup contender in hopes to try to get himself a cup before he retires, because he's not getting any younger.
That's right. But a very good player still.
Very good player. Yeah, he'll probably be in the third, fourth line, somewhere in that area. He's not a top six anymore. But he'll be a nice depth add for Nashville, making them even better than they already are. All right.
Knows how to fight too.
Yep. Lance Boma, forward, basically plays all three positions in the forward. Signed with Chicago, 1 year, $1 million. He was a name that was being tossed around as some teams that wanted to add a depth guy. Not a big point getter, but he'll be a good third, fourth liner for them. Nick Cousins signed with Arizona, forward, 2 years, $1 million. He'll probably get plenty of playing time on that team. It's going to be a bad team again this year, I think. They're going to be playing a lot of their young players. All right. Another Nashville signing, which made me go, wow. Nick Bonino.
Yep.
Who's a playoff star for Pittsburgh the last couple of years. Signed a 4-year deal, $4.1 per year, to play with the Nashville Predators. So he must have liked the atmosphere in Nashville when they were playing him in the finals.
Yes.
He decided he wanted to play for them.
Yeah, and to take that a step further, I saw him on NHL Tonight. They actually talked to him live, and he is very excited to be in Nashville. His family, they're looking forward to this, and he is like a kid in a candy store. When they talk to him about him moving to Nashville and all of this, he's very pleased, set up well, and Nashville gets a good player.
Yep. Nice third, probably a third liner, maybe fourth, depending on how everything shakes out there. All right. Next one is probably the biggest unrestricted free agent signing of the season, and that is Mr. Kevin Shattenkirk, who is very highly touted. And all the tweets that I saw basically said that it was coming down to either New York or Boston on where he would end up. Yep. And he eventually signs with the Rangers. 4 years, $6.65 million a year.
Yeah.
I think that is a fantastic signing for the Rangers.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
I think it is too, Wayne. What immediately came into my mind was, it really hurt me to see Keith Yandle go.
Yep.
And here we are. We get a guy back on the team, and he as a defenseman, he can score. So we got a guy back that virtually replaces Keith Yandle in my mind, and a guy who wants to be in New York, grew up as a Rangers fan his whole life. So I'm very pleased with that.
Originally from New Rochelle, New York, so grew up a Ranger fan, and he said in the interview that he always pictured himself being a Ranger someday. And he finally got his opportunity, but apparently Boston was making a play to try to get him as well. But and I've also heard reports that he was offered contracts for higher money to play for other teams, but he chose to take less money, less term, to become a Ranger.
Wow,
so
very good.
So he'll be a nice add for New York on the blue line there. Speaking of former Rangers, Dan Girardi ended up in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
2 years, $3 million a year. So he's obviously not going to be in the top pairing down there, but because they have, some pretty good defensemen already in Tampa. They've got Victor Hedman, Anton Strahlman, Braden Coburn. So he still could end up in the top four, but
he's a top six at least, and remains to be seen how he does down there.
His play tailed off there the last year or so in New York. So,
yep.
This will probably be his last big contract. All right, another Penguin jumped shipped. Chris Kunitz ended up in Tampa on a 1 year $2 million contract.
Yeah. And
So this is a guy who is not playing as well as he once was. He's definitely on the downswing of his career, but
Right.
he'll
In
be
the
a
twi-
nice depth add, and I think Tampa Bay is going to be a very good team this year with some of these veterans they've signed on.
I agree.
All right, Toronto Maple Leafs have signed on another veteran. Ron Hainsey signed a 2-year, $3 million contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yep.
I think Toronto's dangerously good. They are very, I mean, obviously they made the playoffs last year, and I really don't think that's a fluke. I think they'll be back this year.
I agree. All that talent, the young players that they have, put Toronto in the playoffs again.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. And obviously Ron Hainsey feels the same way. He signed with them. And he's probably from that area anyway, so it probably moves him closer to home. No, he's American. He's from Bolton, Connecticut. Okay. For some reason, I thought he was Canadian. All right. Next one. Mike Camilleri signs back with L.A., a team that he once played for. 1 year, $1 million. So he will help a team that, if he can still put out any offense anyway, he'll help a team that has had a hard time scoring goals in recent years.
Right.
He might be able to get him 40, maybe 50 points. 50 might be a bit of a stretch, but he should be able to get him 40 points anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So another veteran player for L.A.
They sign those kind of guys, don't they?
They seem to do, yeah.
And make good use of them.
Yep. But he's not a guy that's going to put them back in the playoffs, I don't think.
No, you're right.
All right, another former Penguin, Trevor Daley, signed with the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah.
For 3 years, $3.167 per year.
I think he'll fit in very good there, Wayne.
Yep.
And that's the type of team where he can excel, you know. Might be the last big contract for him.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age.
I think
sure.
he'll get a lot out of him, you know.
Yep. Detroit's a team that's in a bit of a rebuilding stage, and they do need veteran players to help with the young kids, and I think that'll ultimately be his role there. Mm-hmm. All right. Patrick Marleau is another big name that has been bandied about around the league. He ended up signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
There was a lot of speculation of where him and Joe Thornton might end up because they were both ended up being free agents this year. And Marleau ends up with Toronto. 3 years, $6.25 million a year.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
That is.
But if you think about it, all those young kids that Toronto has, they're all in the very early part of their entry-level deal. So Toronto has money to spend right now, at least until they have to re-sign Marner and re-sign Matthews. You know, once those guys earn their big boy contracts, they're not going to have room for a Patrick Marleau under the cap anymore. So
and I think Patrick Marleau is a guy that has got a couple years left of good production as far as a goal scorer.
Yep.
And it's not a bad move.
The thing that should be concerning for Leafs fans, though, is with this being a 3-year, I'm not sure when Marner and Matthews are the two guys that could end up with big contracts when their entry-level deals are up. They could run into a problem there with, it won't be for the next 2 years, but I think that third year, let me look it up real quick. Yeah, Marner, he's an RFA in 1920, and Matthews is also an RFA in 1920. So they could run into a bit of a problem. They don't have, although they don't have a lot of money committed that season as of right now. Mm-hmm. But those guys are going to earn their big boy contracts that season, which will be Marleau's third season with the team, and Marleau has a no movement clause, so they could put themselves into a bit of a pickle there.
Right. Interesting to see how that develops.
But for the next 2 years anyway, Toronto they basically got house money. with Marner and Matthews signed to entry-level deals and putting out at the production that they're putting out, Nylander as well, although Nylander's only got one more season left before they have to re-sign him to a big boy contract. Those three players right there are essentially the core of that rebuilding team.
Absolutely.
And, until those three guys end up with get out of their entry level and into more expensive contracts, Toronto can basically spend free willy-nilly probably for the next 2 years anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, moving on. This one was pretty surprising.
Yep.
Montreal signs goaltender Carey Price to a contract extension. Now, he's still under contract through this upcoming season.
Mm-hmm.
So they re-signed him. They extended his contract another 8 years.
Yep.
For $10.5 million a year, which equals, or at the time equaled, Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews as the highest paid players in the NHL.
Right.
On a average annual value anyway.
Right. Cap hit.
So they have locked up Carey Price through the 2025-26 season. Which if my math is correct, that would be our 10th year of podcasting. Am I correct?
I listen. That's as far as Montreal and their because they are really a loser in this. They did not turn. They have not done well in free agency or the end of the season here as far as swapping of players and moving players in and out. But that's a good move because the point can be made that he is the best goalie in the world.
Yep.
If he's not, he's in the top two. And so they have to keep him. That's their franchise.
Yep.
And they have to keep him. So that and hey, they're going to pay that kind of money. He's worth it. 8 years, I don't know, but he'll
be 38 years old when this contract ends.
Right.
So they've essentially locked him up for the rest of his career at this point.
That's right.
I don't know. I tend to think that 10.5 for a goalie is a bit much. Of course, I think the Bruins are overpaying for Tuukka Rask at $7 million a year. So,
yeah,
like I said, I seem to think the goaltending position, the difference from a great goalie to a good goalie, is not that much. So, I get it. They're signing him. They don't have to worry about the goalie position going forward. They essentially can ignore goalies in the draft for the next 4 to 5 years.
Right.
They don't even have to pick any, just because they've got Carey Price locked up. So, and you know how popular goalies are in Montreal. They do like their goalies. So
yes, they do.
Especially if they're French speaking. But I don't know. I think this may handcuff the Canadiens going forward because now whatever the salary cap is, you've got 10, 15% of your salary cap locked up in one player.
Right.
It's gonna handcuff them a little bit. It's certainly going to prevent them from being able to sign a good number 2 goalie because you're not going to lock up another $2 or $3 million in a backup goalie.
That's a very good point. The other hand is, Carey Price. Without Carey Price, forget it. Montreal they'd be one of the worst teams in the East. So they have to have Carey Price on that team.
Yeah. So
they were in a bit of a Mark Edward Vlasic.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I know Carey Price keeps talking how he wants to win and he thinks Montreal's the best place for him to win. Of course, any team that Carey Price is on is going to be a contender anyway, but because he is that good. But I don't know. Montreal can have him, I guess, in my opinion. At that price, they can have him.
Yeah.
I'll settle for Tuukka Rask and take my $3 million and spend that on a forward that can beat Carey Price on a regular basis. So, and then we'll still have Tuukka. So, I guess that's just the point I was making on that. All right, let's move on. It's a big signing for Montreal. Canadiens fans are happy. We're happy for them, I guess.
That's right.
All right, moving on. Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
Decided to stay with the Sharks. Stayed on a 1-year deal, $8 million per year.
Yeah, that's well, we'll see. He's not worth $8 million. Wayne.
No, not even close. He
He
scored 7 goals last year.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Joe Thornton brings more to the game than goals. His value is not in goals that he puts in; it's goals that he sets up.
Yeah.
And he consistently leads the league, I think, in assists almost every year. I mean, his last several years, he's had 43 assists, 63, 49, 65, 33. He's kind of like the modern-day Wayne Gretzky.
One of the best playmakers in the game.
Yes.
For sure.
Yep. So, obviously, his value isn't in how many goals he scores. But for a guy making $8 million a year, you want more than 7 goals.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's at the very least 20 goals a year.
So I think San Jose, and I think knowing that they were going to lose Patrick Marleau, I think panicked a little bit and overpaid Joe Thornton to stay. So, speaking of which, did you see him and the ESPN body issue with him and?
I did see that. Him and Burns.
Brent Burns, yeah.
Yeah. Took off all the clothes and
they had the beard that went all the way down basically to their toes.
Oh,
that was
God.
an interesting set of photographs right there. Those two guys are a couple of clowns when they get together. All right, let's move on. Evgeny Kuznetsov decided to stay with the Capitals. Actually, he was a restricted free agent, so he had no choice. He signs on for 8 years, 7.8 per year.
Okay, now if he produces as Evgeny Kuznetsov could produce, then that's a good signing. He's got to bring it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? At 25 years old, that's a good signing if he produces.
I think at that price, he's got to score more than 20 goals a year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is all he's been able to manage thus far. Although I think this shows us that the Capitals are kind of shifting centering their team around. They're still centering it around Ovechkin, but I think Kuznetsov is their future centerpiece. I think.
I agree.
Which could end up biting him if he doesn't produce.
He's got to produce.
Yep.
I mean, that definitely going to be a pressure cooker there on him. He's got to produce.
Yep. So, all right, Alice Hemsky, right winger, signed with the Montreal Canadiens, 1 year, $1 million.
Yep.
Nice depth forward for them. He's not going to put a whole lot out there on the score sheet, but he'll be a good third, fourth line guy for them. I don't know why my dog is barking. I'm not sure. All right. Next player is Xavier Ouellet, defenseman, signed with the Detroit Red Wings. 2 years, $1.25 per year. He was with them before, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. So he just decided to stay with them. He's only 23. He had no choice. He was restricted. Let's see. Alexander Radulov, another big name.
Yep.
Who slipped through Montreal's fingers. Ends up in Dallas. Signs a 5 years, $6.25 million per year. Another one of those. He'd better produce.
He better produce. And, his days in the KHL are behind him with this contract.
Yep. He had a good
But
season last year,
he
54
did.
points.
You think that Montreal just wasn't going to pony up that kind of money?
Um, the reports I saw out of Montreal centered around him and who's their defenseman there?
Shea Weber?
No. Kozlov? No. Shit.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Having trouble
Yeah,
with names tonight.
I know who you're talking about. Andrei Markov.
Markov. Yes. The report I saw out of Montreal was that Montreal's offer to both Markov and Radulov was firm and final.
Okay.
And even there was even a quote I saw that Bergevin said, "Hey, there's not going to be any negotiation. This is our offer to these guys." Now, is that because they knew they were going to be signing Carey Price to $10 million a year, and they want to make sure they don't overpay for these two Russian guys? I don't know, but Markov still remains unsigned, but Radulov ended up in Dallas. So
Let me tell you, Alexander Radulov had a great season for Montreal. Not just a good season. He was very, very good for them.
and here's what makes Dallas scary. What if they were to put Radulov on a line with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin?
Yeah. Can you imagine that? That might be the best line in the NHL.
It might happen. It could happen. I mean, it really could happen.
If Radulov comes out,
and then if they can convince Nikushkin to come back over,
oh God,
because Nikushkin
Dallas is looking better and better.
Yep,
trading place with the Blackhawks.
They're gonna be a contender for sure.
Oh yep,
in the West, because they got a decent goalie in Ben Bishop. Again, knock on wood, Bishop stays healthy. They've shored up that weakness.
Hitchcock comes back to coach him.
They've got an explosive offense, even with just having Radulov on the team, adding to what they already had. But if they can convince Nikushkin to come back, because he was a highly touted prospect, who basically bolted before he had his breakout year. But the year he decides to come back here, which probably will eventually happen, it's gonna make Dallas even better. All right, here's the next one that's kind of interesting. It's under our scope, but at $875,000 on a 1-year contract, Nail Yakupov signs on with the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah,
this could be end up being a win-win for everybody. Gives Yakupov one last chance to prove himself as a serviceable NHL player. I mean, 3-4 years ago he was the first overall pick.
Yep.
And just has not produced on any level.
Right.
Since coming over. There was a lot of rumors that he was going to go back to the KHL this year. But the Colorado Avalanche gave him one last chance. So in my mind, we'll steal from a New York saying, if he can't make it there, he can't make it anywhere in the NHL, all right? Colorado's the worst team in the league by quite a margin right now, and he signs on to be Colorado Avalanche. Now, the fact that initially I'm thought, what is Sakic doing signing on Yakupov, who obviously hasn't produced and has yet to prove that he can produce. But then when I saw he only signed him for $875, for a 1-year contract, I'm like, you know what? It's a good gamble move.
Yep.
It really is.
Yep.
He's really got nothing to lose there.
No, absolutely not. The guy could turn around and have a great season. And it'd be a great move.
If he doesn't do well, he can bury him in the minors, put him on waivers. No one will probably pick him up. And, his contract will be done at the end of the season. They can be done with him. But if he decides to, the reports I'm getting with Yakupov is it's just flat out work ethic. It's just not there. He came in, he was the number 1 overall pick and thought he could coast his way into the league, and he just hasn't done that. So if he decides to, at this point it's up to Yakupov. If he decides he wants to be a pro, he can be a very good player. But it's all up to him.
Right.
So it's that typical Russian stigma that you see.
Yeah.
He's just the latest example of that reputation that Russian players have of being, not the hardest working players in the world. All right, here's another one, Ranger.
Yeah.
This one came over. Actually, I saw it yesterday, but it looks like he signed on the 4th. Signed David Desharnais to a 1-year, $1 million contract.
Now, Edmonton's let go of some players, haven't they?
Yeah.
And
well, they're making room for
what we're going to talk about here in a minute or two.
Yep.
But my feeling on it right off the bat, he's for $1 million, I think it's a good move. A veteran player, he's 30 years old. At $1 million, a good move. Yep. And we'll see how it goes. 1-year deal.
He has a few 50-point seasons in his past, so
if
he can recapture that, that'll be a steal.
Absolutely.
Not that might happen, but don't expect that to happen. But hey, why not? It's not a bad move for them. He's kind of undersized, so if the Rangers, but he might have the speed to be able to keep up with guys like Zuccarello and some of the Jesper Foss and some of the better speedy forwards that they have.
But you think about it, you got Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, David Desharnais, Nail Yakupov.
Yep.
You can go on. They've let some players go here.
Yep.
The Edmonton Oilers.
Yep.
So.
All right, next one I have is a Vegas signing. Signed Oscar Lindberg. I actually think he's a player that they picked up in the expansion draft, but he was a restricted free agent, so they re-signed him to a 2-year, $1.7 per year contract. So he'll probably be on the top 2 lines, one of the top 2 lines for them.
Yeah.
Andrei Burakovsky signed with the Washington Capitals. This is obviously a restricted free agent signing. He's only 22 years old. Signed a 2-year, $3 million per year contract with the Capitals. So he'll be a part of their future for sure. Well, at least for the next couple of years. A entry level contract, Klim Kostin, sorry. He is the first player from the 2017 draft class to sign a contract, and he signed with the St. Louis Blues, a 3-year, $925 per year entry level. So he signed at the rookie maximum. Yep, for 3 years, $925 per year, and so the St. Louis Blues obviously think he's going to make the team right off the bat. Now the question is, if he doesn't end up making the team, does he go back to Russia?
Oh.
Because he didn't play in juniors. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it works with European players. He might have to go back to Russia and play over there on a junior team in one of the junior leagues over there. Because he didn't play in the KHL. He played in one of their junior leagues. So it remains to be seen. But obviously them signing him, they think that they've got a player in him that he'll probably make the team right off the bat. Not sure if he'll be the last player from this year's draft class to be signed, but he is the first. So, the next player I have, Jesper Foss, signed with the Rangers. 3 years, $1.85 per year.
That's good. That's a very good signing for them. And a utility guy. He wears a lot of hats. Fast skater.
Living up to his name, huh?
Yes, he is. He's very fast. And he's been a perennial guy there with his Alain Vigneault has fit him into the system very well. So that's a great signing. I'm very pleased with that.
Now he's going to miss a part of the season, right?
With his injury. That's correct. the initial part of the season, I believe, if I understood it correctly.
Yeah. Okay.
But he should be back. So.
Yep. All right. Good. Next one I have, Zach Hyman signs with the Toronto Maple Leafs. 4 years, $2.25 per year.
Yep.
Be a nice forward for them. He's obviously a restricted free agent signing, so he'll be going back to Toronto.
Hey, I wanted to ask you about this one.
Yeah.
Sebastian Aho.
Oh, yeah. Yep, they re-signed him. Oh, no. We're not talking about the same Sebastian Aho. You almost confused me on that one. There's actually, I was actually looking at this last night. There's two, and this is going to confuse everybody now. There are now two Sebastian Ahos playing in the NHL.
Isn't that something?
Yep.
That doesn't seem like a common name to me.
No, and they're from two different countries too. This Sebastian Aho, who signed with the Islanders to a 3-year, $770,000 per year contract, he's a defenseman. He's from Sweden.
Okay.
Whereas the Sebastian Aho that plays for the Carolina Hurricanes is from Finland.
It's Finn.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be confusing, especially if they end up playing against each other.
I saw that and I was like, Wayne is definitely going to say something about that.
Yep.
But okay, now I understand.
Yep, it's a different Sebastian Aho. So
a different guy.
Yep.
Aho.
Oh, don't get me started on that. I get so annoyed with the Carolina Hurricanes announcers whenever Aho scores a goal. Aha, Aho. I'm like, oh God, come up with something a little bit better than that. Come on. They do it every time he scores a goal. Aha, Aho. Like, really? Is that could come up with something better. All right. The next one is a big one. Connor McDavid.
Yep.
Signed his first big boy contract, and it actually doesn't take effect until a year from now because he still has one more year left on his entry-level deal. But he signed an extension, 8 years, $100 million contract.
Yeah.
Averaging with an average annual value of $12.5 million per year. So that makes Connor McDavid now the highest paid player in the NHL in terms of cap hit.
Yep.
So this was a big, big signing for Edmonton, and they were talking about it for a couple of weeks.
Yep. Oh, don't you think they had to do it? I mean, he wins the Hart Trophy.
Yeah, he wins the Art Ross, the Hart Trophy.
Wins the Art Ross.
Takes all the hardware home.
Wins the Lindsay.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. He basically wins all the offensive.
He's
whatever.
a phenomenal player. He is the future of the NHL. So they had to do that. $12.5 million 5 years from now, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, that's not gonna be that. They had to do it. So
yeah, he signed on. He's now locked up through the 25-26 season. So he has 1 year remaining on his entry-level deal at $925, and then Edmonton will be paying substantially through the nose for him.
Yes,
but every bit of worth it. I mean, this is only his second year in the year, and he already hit the 100-point plateau. Yeah. And there's a lot of people thinking that he could end up reaching, and it'll be interesting to see if he can, reaching the 1,000-point plateau before the end of this contract.
Yep.
And he'll still only be, what?
28.
28 when this contract is up.
Got another one coming. Another big boy contract.
That one will probably be 15 a year or something like that. By then, the salary cap will be $100+ million a year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is obviously the big signing of the year, and now Edmonton has turned their sights on Leon Draisaitl.
That's the next thing is they've got to build their team around Connor McDavid.
Yep. Well, right now Yeah, they're essentially going to be building it around Draisaitl and McDavid because
Right.
the reports out of Edmonton is that Draisaitl is probably going to earn a contract in excess of 6 to 7 per year as well.
Wow.
So, yeah,
But
they're essentially putting all their eggs in McNuggets basket. So,
well, uh, you know, Chiarelli can do it. He can build the team. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They just got to pick the right pieces, chemistry wise. It's going to be interesting to see how they do this, and this is going to be a fun team to watch. But they do need to be picking players that are built around those guys.
Yep.
And Draisaitl's a must. They have to have him. They have to have Leon Draisaitl.
for sure.
So, and with Cam Talbot in net, it's going to be an interesting team to watch. They're going to remain a contender and a playoff team, in my opinion. So, even with the players that have left there in the last month, 2 months,
Yep.
Jordan Eberle, Benoit Pouliot, David Desharnais, there's been an exodus out of there, and you see why with this signing, but. It's going to be interesting to watch Edmonton.
Yep. Well, they're going to be a good team for years to come as long as McDavid is around and can say anything about it. All right. Next one I have, and we only got a few left. Alex Galchenyuk signed an extension with Montreal, 3 years, $4.9 per year. There was a lot of talk that he was going to be traded, but with that kind of signing, tells me that they've decided to keep him around for a while. So.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be a centerpiece in there. Not the centerpiece, but he'll be one of their better forwards going forward. Philip Grubauer signed a 1 year, $1.5 million contract to back up Braden Holtby in Washington. So Grubauer decides to stay around. Curious why it's only 1 year. I guess maybe he's just biding his time until maybe possibly next year a starting job opens up that he might have a shot at. Because this is a guy that could potentially be a starter.
That's correct.
Given the right opportunity. All right. The last couple here. Mark Pysyk, defenseman, signed with Florida for 3 years, $2.73 per year. He'll be a centerpiece in their defense going forward. And then finally, Brett Ritchie, right winger, signed with Dallas, 2 years, $1.75 per year. Now, there's tons of other players we didn't talk about, obviously. We didn't talk about any of the guys that are going to be filling depth spots on different rosters throughout the league. Again, if you want to see the list, go to the show notes. There's a link, and you can see the full list and see what your team added. And as we get closer to the regular season, we're going to go and do a team-by-team preview anyway with everybody, with all the teams, so see which teams added what and which didn't. But for now, I made a list last night of what I'm going to call free agent winners, free agent losers, and free agent teams that's standing pat. And what this basically is my opinion, to start with, on which teams. Now, I'm only considering free agent signings. I'm not talking about the trades. So some of these teams that I'm calling a winner might turn out to be a loser because of the trades they made.
Right.
Or vice versa. They may be losers now and turn out to be winners because of the trades they made. This is just talking about free agent signings as of July, what's today? July 6th. So the first 5 days of free agency. There's still a lot of time to go.
Sure.
Granted, a lot of the big names are off the board, but there are still a number of names that are still available. Like for example, just a name of some of the guys that are still available. Andrei Markov, Thomas Vanek, Jaromir Jagr, Mike Fisher, Brian Giunta, Matt Cullen, P.A. Parento, UC Jokinen, Jerome McGinley, Shane Doan, Mark Streit, Mike Ribeiro, Daniel Winnick, Alex Chason, Drew Stafford, Laurie Korpikoski, Cody Franson, Scotty Upshall, Dennis Weidman, Rene Bourque. Those are just the top 20 names that I have that were available, that are still available to be signed. Of course, a lot of these guys are getting on in years. Some of these guys are probably going to retire. But those are some of the names that are still officially available that haven't been signed. But as of right now, here are the teams that I think have made themselves better through free agency. Hurricanes, Stars, Red Wings, Panthers, Kings, Predators, Devils, Rangers, Maple Leafs, Canucks, and Jets. Do you have any you want to add to that list?
It remains to be seen, but perhaps the Buffalo Sabres.
Okay.
And it's going to depend on a number of things. Have they shored up their coach? They got a new coach, don't they?
Yeah, there are no coaching vacancies right now, as far as I know.
It's going to remain to be seen, but they may be a team that is a winner in this free agency draft.
Yeah.
So Jason Pominville coming back there, we didn't talk a lot about that, but he played very well for Buffalo.
Yep.
And so you never know. Things like that, little players that sneak back in. Guys they get on a deal.
Yep.
And I just saw the Sabres made some good moves.
Yep. Well, and this list is just simply teams that made themselves better through free agency only, not through trades.
Right.
So this is just isolating just free agents in general. Now, teams that have made themselves worse because they've lost players through free agency and have yet to replace them with players of that quality or better. The Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Canadiens, Penguins, Sharks, and Capitals. Now, obviously, if you look at that list, you're like, okay, well, these are all teams that were right up against the cap and had to clear out some cap space.
Yeah.
And couldn't continue with the teams that they had because they wouldn't be able to fit them under the cap. That's essentially this group of teams right there were teams that just had to get rid of players due to cap reasons. Although Montreal wasn't exactly in that, but they lost some players and haven't yet to replace them. Now, teams that I think have neither made themselves better or worse through free agency, some of these teams have either not made any moves at all through free agency or have added players and dropped players, but it ended up being a wash. Ducks, Coyotes, Bruins, Sabres, Flames, Avalanche, Oilers, Wild, Senators, Flyers, Blues, Lightning, Golden Knights, and the Islanders. And the Islanders, I want to point out, have yet to make any free agent moves of any kind. It's almost as if on June 30th, Garth Snow decided, oh, I'm out of here. I'll see you in mid-July.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any moves. Because they have done nothing in free agency. They haven't even signed American League players. They're just you look at the list of signings, every team has at least one player they've signed.
Right.
May not have been an NHL player, but they've at least signed somebody.
Right.
Islanders have signed nobody.
Yeah.
Thus far. So remains to be seen what is up their sleeve. They got more issues than just player issues there in New York, but
that's true.
They got arena issues that they still need to work out. All right, so enough talking about individual players. Let's talk about some of the stories that we've come across over the past week or so. And the first story I came across was Tampa Bay Lightning forwards Tyler Johnson and Andre Palat were among 30 players to file for salary arbitration on Wednesday. Now, what this is these were players that were offered, they're restricted free agents that were offered, what do they call it? The qualifying offer. Mm-hmm. And the player wasn't happy with that offer, and they have the option to file for salary arbitration. Now, of course, the salary arbitration, basically what happens there is the team that they're going against is going to try to say, okay, let's say, for example, a guy, they're disputing a salary. The team thinks that this player should be paid $3 million. The player thinks he should be paid $5 million per year, right? Well, the team is going to come out and give to the independent arbiter a list of reasons why they feel that he isn't worth more than $3 million. And they're going to bring up things like, he's a bad locker room guy. He doesn't show up for charity events. There's a number of things. His stats weren't that good. They're basically just going to call out their own player. Like, it gets ugly, right?
Yeah.
Player, on the other hand, is going to, try to make a case of why he's worth $5 million, for example, in this example. So arbitration gets ugly. And most of these aren't going to go all the way to arbitration. Most of them ultimately end up agreeing to a contract before they reach arbitration. Because a lot of times when it does get that far, it puts a strain on the relationship between the player and the team. And ultimately it could end up backfiring in everybody's face. So, So some of the players that have filed for arbitration, Jordan Martinook with the Coyotes, Ryan Spooner with the Bruins. Sabres had Nathan Beaulieu, Johan Larsson, Robin Lehner. Calgary had Michael Furlan. Colorado, Matt Nito. Detroit, Thomas Tatar. Edmonton, Joey LaLeggia. LA, Kevin Gravel. Minnesota, Michael Granlund and Nino Niederreiter. Montreal, Alex Galchenyuk. He ultimately signed. Predators, Victor Arvidsson, Marek Mazanik, and Austin Watson. The Islanders, Calvin DeHaan. New York Rangers, Jesper Foss, but he ultimately signed. Mika Zibanejad. The Senators, Ryan Zingle and Jean-Gabriel Pageau. Pittsburgh, Brian Dumoulin and Connor Sheary. St. Louis, Colton Perico. Tampa Bay, Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, as we just said earlier. Canucks, Reed Boucher and Michael Chaput. And Vegas, Nate Schmidt. And Winnipeg, Connor Hellebuck. So those are the 30 players that could possibly go to arbitration. But again, ultimately probably will not because, arbitration gets ugly. All right. Now, have you heard Ilya Kovalchuk is going back to the KHL?
Read this yesterday.
Yep.
Yes.
There was a lot of rumors that he was going to sign and possibly get traded to an NHL team.
Right.
But he ultimately, I don't know. Basically, the story I saw was Kovalchuk was going to come back, but he didn't want to play for New Jersey.
That's
New Jersey was trying to do everything they could to trade him, but New Jersey was not going to take
nothing.
They wanted fair value for him.
Right.
And of course, they couldn't ultimately determine what fair value was. Obviously, New Jersey felt he was worth more than all the other teams decided they were, because they couldn't find somebody to trade him to. So Kovalchuk has decided to go back to the KHL for one more year. He'll be able to come back to the NHL as an unrestricted
null and void. That cuts New Jersey right out.
Right. So that leads to you to believe, well, he really didn't have much value anyway. He only had value for one more season. He'll come back next year because next year he'll be 35 and New Jersey will no longer have rights to him.
That's correct.
And he can sign anywhere he wants next year without New Jersey or anybody else's consent.
Right.
So I predict that we're going to see Kovalchuk next year in the NHL.
I think we will, and he could very well be a Vegas Golden Knight.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
That
would be something.
Yep.
All right. The last story I have is a bit of a kind of a down note. Was the passing of Dave Semenko last week. Dave Semenko, a two-time Stanley Cup winner and line mate of Wayne Gretzky with the Edmonton Oilers, died Thursday of pancreatic cancer. He was 59. It was with great sadness that we announced the passing of Oilers legend Dave Semenko after a short but courageous battle with cancer, the Oilers said in a statement. Dave will be remembered as a fierce competitor, loyal teammate, fan favorite, and dear friend to so many. His legendary toughness on the ice is surpassed only by his kindness and caring for others, and his equally legendary wit and sense of humor. Our hearts go out to Dave's family and many friends. Kevin Lowe, vice chairman of the Oilers Entertainment Group, said the banners hanging in Rogers Place honoring Edmonton's all-time greats were indicative of Semenko's influence and guidance. Semenko, a Winnipeg native, joined the Oilers for the 77-78 WHA season. He scored the last goal in the history of the WHA, a 7-3 loss to the Winnipeg Jets in Game 6 of the Avgo Cup final. That was the championship of that league. And then moved with the Oilers to the NHL for 79-80, playing with Edmonton until he was traded to the Whalers on December 12, 1986. One of the first Oilers I met in 78. I didn't know at the time the impact he would have in my life and my career, Gretzky said in a statement. He was the toughest player I knew and yet the biggest teddy bear you would ever know. A beloved Oiler that will be missed dearly because of his kind heart and funny sense of humor. He made us all better people. The news of Dave's passing this morning literally took my breath away, Hockey Hall of Famer Mark Messier said in a statement. I loved Semenko like we all did. He was a great teammate, a loyal friend, a loving father, and worthy champion. The Oilers said Semenko was first diagnosed with cancer 3 to 4 weeks ago after he called former Oilers head medical trainer Kenny Lowe, the brother of Kevin. I guess he had not been well for a couple of weeks, Kevin Lowe said. There was no record of any of his recent health because he hadn't been to a doctor in 15 years, because I guess he had been the picture of health. The prognosis had been not great, but it felt treatable at the time, and it was just a rapid descent. He loved what he did, and this was the first year he wasn't scouting, but as an ambassador. He was the first ever Oilers ambassador. We had so many comments from our customers and our employees of how fortunate they were to be able to work with him, and he was so happy of not traveling, and he was really, really happy with the new building, the team, and what he was doing, and he was really looking forward to the coming years. I'm shocked that this all went down so quick, and I'm going to really miss him. So that was a story for. Geez, I was home that day, and I had the NHL Network on. You know how they have that show at noon time, the Hockey Central. That was the entire show. That was all they talked about was Dave Semenko, and they had various players.
Dave Semenko, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a great player.
So, he was the prototypical enforcer. He had the reputation of being Wayne Gretzky's bodyguard. He basically he made it so that Wayne Gretzky could do what he did on the ice.
Right.
So if anybody, took any liberties with Gretzky, they had to answer to Semenko.
Yep.
So, yeah, it was kind of a sad story to see how quickly he went there.
Yeah. That's really very quickly.
So it's a lesson. I guess it's a lesson to us all that we should probably see a doctor once in a while, and I should take heed of that because I'm kind of in that boat, and as someone who hasn't been to a doctor in quite a while. So, but yeah, because he hadn't been to a doctor, obviously the cancer went unnoticed until it was too late. So, all right. Well, let's move on to our picks of the week. And we'll go ahead and let you go ahead.
Okay.
With yours.
Okay, Wayne. Mine is based around this free agency period that we're talking about. And one of the guys who we mentioned during the free agency signing, Ryan Miller. My pick of the week deals with him and actually his son, Bodie Miller. The article from Bailey, let me make sure I get this. I think it's Bailey Meadows, who works with the Vancouver newspaper, titled "Ryan Miller's Son Says Goodbye to Vancouver by Singing O Canada." And I do not have but you can pull this up on YouTube, and it's really cute. I think his son's very young, 2 years old, I think. Miller time is officially over in Vancouver. After much speculation, Ryan Miller will, in fact, be going to the Anaheim Ducks next season. He signed a 2-year deal worth $2 million per season earlier on Saturday. This comes as little surprise to many, as there had long been rumors, and I remember this before he went to Vancouver. There had long been rumors of Miller wanting to sign in California to be closer to his wife, who is an actress in Hollywood. Miller played great for the bulk of his 3 seasons with the Canucks, Despite a lot of losing, Miller surely has a lot of fond memories in Vancouver. The most notable, of course, is his 2-year-old son, Bodie Miller. Bodie was born in Vancouver on March the 20th, 2015, shortly before the Canucks played the Calgary Flames in the playoffs. Shortly after the announcement that he was off to Anaheim, Miller and his son took some time to reflect on their days as Canadians. Thank you to the Canucks, because as you know, Ryan Miller is an American.
Yes, he is. Yep.
American. Yep. Thank you to the Canucks organization and fans in Vancouver for wonderful memories, Miller said on his Twitter. Bodie's hometown will always be a part of us now. Bodie had a little something to sing as well, and again, I don't have it set up to play something like that. I encourage all of you to listen to it. He has a little rendition of "Oh Canada," and it's really touching. Many fans dreaded the idea of Miller coming to Vancouver a few seasons ago, but the aging goaltender acted like a true professional both on and off the ice during his 3 seasons there. He's now off to join fellow former Canucks Kevin Bieksa and Ryan Kessler in Anaheim. So good luck to Ryan. And you know, Wayne, I thought about this. Ryan Miller is more than likely, because he's probably going to play a couple years, 2-3 years at least, he is going to become the all-time winningest goaltender, an American winningest goaltender, which I think right now is held by John Van Beesbrook. But if you look in the goaltending records, Ryan Miller's, I don't even think he's 20 games behind him. He will pass John Van Beesbrook and become the all-time winningest American goalie. And, you know, it's touching tribute to him. I think he's a great player. And there was a time there where I remember when he was the #1 goalie in the world, and played as the goalie for the United States not too long ago. So just wanted to take my hat off to Ryan Miller and wish him well.
Good. All right. Well, mine has a bit of a. Did you hear about the world record that was set?
I did not. I saw this in the show notes. I've been dying to hear this story.
All right. Well, of course, you get these marathon games that you come across. Well, apparently Guinness World Record for the longest hockey game ever was set in 2015 by a group of Canadians who put together a charity game that was designed to set the record, and they set it. It was over 11 days long. Well, a group out of Buffalo decided they were going to break that record, and they did complete that task this week. And here's the story. I found it out of it was out of Sports Illustrated, but it's an AP story. It says, fatigue gave way to emotion for Les Kuntar on Monday when he attempted to put into perspective spending the last 11 days playing one continuous hockey game. Standing at center ice and sipping a beer, the 47-year-old former professional goalie's eyes welled with tears as he recalled a poignant moment that occurred early one morning during the bid to break the record for the longest game and raise money for cancer research. He says, a lady came in and she had a bandana on her head, so she was obviously undergoing chemotherapy, said Kuntar, whose career included playing 6 games for the Montreal Canadiens during the 93-94 season. I think I remember him. Mm-hmm. I remember that name. At the end, she came down with a white sign that said, "Thank you," and stuck it on the glass. And we all just stopped and tapped our sticks, he said. It's just amazing how many people are touched by this whole thing. Kuntar and 39 other Buffalo Recreational League players, many of them in their 40s, overcame injuries, illness, and countless blisters to unofficially set the record.
God.
It happened shortly after 7 a.m. when an official time clock mounted in the stands overlooking center ice hit 10 days, 10 hours, 3 minutes, and 21 seconds. The time surpassed the previous mark recognized by the Guinness World Records of 250 hours, 3 minutes, and 20 seconds, established during an outdoor game outside Edmonton, Alberta in February 2015. Fans stood, cheered, and hollered, and play was stopped briefly as players hugged on the benches and on the ice. They played for about 32 more minutes before the final buzzer sounded for a game that began at 9 p.m. on June 22nd and ended with Team Blue beating Team White You get this score. 1,725 to 1,697.
God.
This is the finals. So it really is only, 27 goals between them.
Yeah.
It's a pretty even game.
Yeah.
Organizers must submit the full-length game video and official 54-page score sheet to Guinness for verification before it becomes official.
Absolutely.
A far more important tally came afterward when player and organizer Mike Lesikowski announced they had raised more than $1.2 million for Buffalo's Roswell Park Cancer Institute, surpassing their goal by $200,000. An environmental engineer, Lesikowski, began organizing what became the 11-day power play a year ago. That's what they called it, the 11-day power play. He was motivated to raise the money after his wife, Amy, was successfully treated for breast cancer at Roswell in 2009, and in honor of his mother, who died of cancer last year. It was hard getting up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., sticking your feet in an ice bucket and getting wrapped up, Lesikowski said. But here we are, and it feels great now. The two teams were split into mostly 7-player groupings, 5 skaters, a goalie, and 1 substitute, which rotated playing 4-hour shifts. Play stopped at each hour for 10 minutes while the ice was resurfaced. Many were forced to take additional shifts to fill in for those who became sidelined by injuries and illness because the rules prevented teams from adding replacements once the game began. All 40 players finished, although goalie Ryan Martin missed several days after coming down with strep throat, and he had to be quarantined so he didn't infect other players. Nicholas Fatty continued playing despite a broken nose after being struck by a puck. Whatever aches and pains the players felt washed away as they celebrated by sipping champagne out of a makeshift cup on the ice. I don't know what to say right now. I'm very tired. We all are, said Alan Davis, who at 65 was the game's oldest player. This event right here is humbling. The amount of money we raised is unbelievable. But how am I with all of it? I think it's going to take a few days to sink in. The ice time was donated by the NHL's Buffalo Sabres owned 2-rink Harbor Center hockey and entertainment complex. Numerous restaurants chipped in by donating meals. A group of athletic trainers and therapists also was on hand 24 hours a day to treat injuries, tape up blisters, and provide massages. The players didn't leave the facility, cramming into 4 rooms that were turned into sleeping quarters. Kenny Corp, who led all scorers with 267 goals, based on statistics compiled through midnight, was eager to play more. Absolutely, Corp said, sporting a gash over the bridge of his nose where he was cut by an errant stick. For this cause, it's a small price to pay as opposed to someone going through chemotherapy or any type of cancer, Corp said. So, yes, I would do it all again tomorrow. So, great story out of Buffalo.
That is super story.
So, makes me want to try to break the record.
Organize an 11-day event. Oh, my God.
We'd have to find a rink around here locally that would be willing to give up 12 days of their schedule to.
Yeah, to break oh, man. Amazing.
To be part of that record. But it's been a nationwide story. I've seen it in several places around the league. But, yeah, great story out of Buffalo. So
yeah, excellent.
So congrats to them for raising all that money, and congrats to them for just finishing. So I guess the way the rules work out is, 40 players, which would be 20 per side.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be one continuous hockey game, and you can't bring in like 100 players and everybody take shifts. It's got to be 2 20-man rosters like you would have in an NHL game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and each team broke up their 20-man roster into smaller groups, and they took shifts.
Amazing.
So, but I guess they all had to stay in the building.
Yeah. So, I'd be exhausted. I wonder how many hours of sleep they would get.
Well, if they were doing, I was trying to do the math. If they were doing 4-hour shifts, let's see, you'd have 3 groups of 7 players on each team.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess 4-hour shifts, you'd be, what is there, 24 hours in a day? So that's what, 6 shifts a day?
Yeah.
So you'd be on the ice 8 hours a day as a player.
Oh. Amazing.
And the other 16, you got to stay in the arena. You got to be. They're probably
Yeah.
hanging out watching
Yep.
for 12 straight days.
Yeah,
Whew, that is a marathon game right there.
that is.
So, but interesting story. It did make national news. Well, Sports Illustrated picked it up, among other nationwide news outlets. So,
Yeah.
good story. All right. Well, that is the end of a very long podcast.
Yes. Lot to cover, Wayne.
There was a lot to cover, a lot of free agent signings. So, again, next time we get together, it's going to be late July. We're tentatively scheduled around the 26th. So we'll get you caught up on all the transactions that have happened between now and then. And it probably won't even be as much as we talked about tonight. It really slows down after. I expect a few more this week, but after this weekend, it's really going to slow down.
Yeah.
Because that's when everybody involved with the NHL just basically gets out of Dodge, goes to their lake house or lake cottage or whatever,
Yep.
and spends the rest of July and the first part of August before they start bringing everybody back in for training camp. So for about the next month or so after this week, it's going to be very, very quiet around the NHL. But in the meantime, the KHL will be starting up here soon. So
Yeah, we'll be reporting on them.
yep. So, but we don't have time this week, but we'll be getting to them very, very soon because their season starts up well before the NHL. All right, finally, as a reminder again, if you want to get involved, you can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at sball504man. You can reach us at our Facebook page at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. You can reach us through our YouTube channel at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. And if you were around for the live stream, congratulations, you got through it. It's been a long one. If not, if you're listening on the podcast, which is ultimately what the first the reason we're getting together each week is for the audio podcast. Of course, I will shorten it up through editing, but I will be putting that out. Probably won't be tonight because I've got to get up early in the morning. But probably tomorrow when I get home, I'll finish the editing and get it out tomorrow night. So if you want to listen to the audio podcast, you'll get it there. But other than that, unless you have anything else to add, we're going to kill it.
That sounds good.
All right.
Have a good evening, Wayne. Great working with you, and looking forward to year 2.
Yes. So until next time, we will see you then. All right.
All right. We got it off and running.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm showing just a bit over 2 hours. So
Yeah, okay.
editing will knock it down to about an hour 45 probably.
Okay. All right. I'm going to exit stage left.
Yeah, me too.
I got to get to bed. I got to be up early, so I'm going to say goodnight to you.
Me too.
In the next couple of weeks, we'll be in touch,
Yep.
in regards to what's going on and any big news stories, and just basically touch base on how we're going to do things for the next one. But
Yeah, we head out of town on the 14th. We get back on the 25th.
okay.
But I'm obviously not working those whole 10 days, so I'll still have my phone with me, although I'm with Sprint, and reception in Maine with Sprint is pretty spotty at best. So if you text me, don't be surprised if I don't respond for several hours.
Okay. I understand. Let's see. My wife and I, we head out of town on the 21st, and we're back on the 23rd.
Oh, okay. So you just go for a weekend.
Yeah. But other than that, I'm here the whole time. So,
but I'll be tweeting, even though I'm in Maine. I'll still be tweeting as news stories come across my phone. So,
yeah, that sounds good.
We'll be traveling. Actually, the first part of the trip will be in Vermont visiting my folks, and then we'll be in Maine visiting family. Probably the middle part of the week visiting friends up in that area, and I also want to spend a couple of days in Acadia National Park, and then. Towards the end of the week, we'll be at my sister's, which is down near Portland. So the reception there should be pretty good. But while I'm in the northern Vermont and the Acadia National Park part of my vacation, signal will be very spotty at best. So
Yeah, I hear you.
So well, good. Well, have
Yeah.
a safe trip then.
Same to you. Have a great time.
Yep.
And we will be back. I'll be in touch with you before then.
We'll be
this
chatting
stuff.
back and forth over the phone and
Yeah.
and Twitter and all that stuff. So, all right, good deal.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, you have a good night.
Same to you. We'll
All
talk
right.
to you soon.
Yep, we'll do.
Good night now.